High-rise toilets, there's lots of things. People have difficulty sitting down. The chairs, the reclining and lifting chairs. Again, somebody had mentioned the rugs. You mentioned rugs on the floor. We get those out of there. They're just a hazard. In the flooring, that's one thing. This kind of flooring is phenomenal. It's great. But there's also flooring, textured flooring, right? And there's things you can put on the flooring to make it textured for like a shower area and so forth, so it's non-slip. Really important so people understand that. And that there's, you kind of have a system, you kind of know after you've done a few of those. I imagine that you've probably done a lot of that work. So going in there and setting those up so that it is almost hospital-like in those rooms and so forth. And that's really what we're doing, is we're trying to get it so that they can be taken care of really to end of life. So it's important if they want to stay at home. I mean, nobody wants to go to a facility where they don't know anybody when they're at the end of their life. So important, and when you kind of look at it in that context, people maybe are a little more motivated. Okay. Appliances, bathtubs and showers, they're out. People cannot get in and out of them.
Oh.
When you get to a certain point, they're just inaccessible, and non-functional. So I encourage people to take that space. Had a friend of mine, he's 85, he's up in Anthem, and when his wife was with us, and I did the same thing. I said, just redo the bathroom. They tore out the tub, redid all the shower, had a nice wheel-in shower, and she was able to stay home indefinitely from that point on because of just making those changes.
If they don't have the money for that, there are bath benches where half of it's in the tub and half of it's out of the tub, and they can sit down beside, on the outside
Absolutely.
of the tub and just pick their feet up and slide across.
Well, what's nice is those benches. There's benches out there that swivel. Okay, so if you're helping somebody get in there, they can sit down and then they can swivel and then they slide along rails. So you can slide them and lift their legs and get them into.
It's all kinds of cheaper stuff than replacing the tub.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, there's space. And one of the things, these are one of my peeves about showers in homes. You see these shower doors, right? So you're opening these shower doors. There's a lot of really bad problems with those. First of all, those little plastic holders that hold the door in place, when you close them, those are sharp. That's hard plastic, and they're a major scratch problem for people that are uncuminated and have thin skin. And I've seen people with marks on their backs where they rubbed up against those. And what I encourage people to do is take those shower doors out completely. Just remove them, put a shower curtain in, put something down on the floor that'll absorb the water, but that's much safer, much better, and they aren't designed to be handled. They aren't designed to bear weight, right? They're just designed to slide back and forth.
And they're glass.
I've seen them break, I've seen broken ones and so forth as well. But anyway, so technology. Now we're getting into a lot of technology that can help. They can track what everybody does. It can track how many times a person uses the restroom a day. It can track them in their home activity. The new necklaces that they have. I mean, they if you fall, they send out a signal because of the GPS tracking and the dynamics of a fall and the way they track it and so forth. Locking doors, turning down the temperature, all those things can be done on your phone, on your smartphone now. So telehealth programs, that's part of what we're doing some of that as far as tracking the health of people. There are systems that we can put in a home where they can go in and say, input if they've taken their medication and when they've taken it and so forth to kind of track that information as well. Plan ahead is what we tell everybody. We try to encourage them when people call me. It's always a good thing when they're looking to investigate what it takes and what non-medical home care does and what we're able to do, and what our boundaries are and so forth. Again, a lot of people don't do this. They don't think about the modifications they would have to make in their home prior to having to do it. Until something happens. Somebody's fallen, now they've broken a hip, and now now they're caring for them. Now by default, we all become caregivers in that situation when a family member gets injured. So,
What do you mean by barter with yourself and others?
you're making, you've got to figure out where you get the resources, how you get these things done. When you're bartering, what's important, what's not important. Okay? So
Policy.
you're going through that whole
Set up
process.
priorities.
Yeah, and it's good to have somebody consult and say, hey, this is why this is a good thing. And here's where it's gonna help you and to have some vision as to what you're gonna be experiencing down the road. As we naturally go through the process of aging. So.
So what age do you start planning?
Now, for example, just myself. My mom's 85. What if she has to come and live with me? Do I have the facility set up appropriately so that she could? Because my brothers are not going to do anything. Okay? So if it falls on anybody, it's going to fall to me, and I'm going to be the one responsible. First of all, I have the resources to do it and the experience to do it, so I know what needs to be done. Okay? So, but if I had to do that today, could I? And I'm not set up for that today. Okay? So I'm planning, I'm working on that as we go along, right? So, you gotta look, I suppose what I would say the answer is look at your own situation. It's like I teach my caregivers, what's the exposure? What do you see down the road? What are your situations, and how many family members, or how responsible are you for their care, or will you be potentially in the future? And what would your plans, if you were doing a disaster plan, for anything, right? So what would you do and how would you go about that? So, and when you see people in their home, somebody gets injured, invariably. They're gonna, their idea is that they were gonna retire and travel and do all this stuff, and then somebody gets sick. Somebody gets dementia. What do you do? Now, you've got to start working on that then.
I thought that when a person retires, often they downsize their homes, and I thought that, okay, so if they're gonna be moving into another home at age 60, 20 years goes just like that. And then at 80, it's not always so easy, or whatever age, it's different for everybody, but, the older you get, the harder it is to move and learn new habits, remember where the silverware is and all that, so. I say when you retire, start planning for where you wanna die.
Yeah, but I think the problem is
To put it real bluntly, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to make it easier not only on yourself but on your kids
yeah, I think,
too. And I mean, we're gonna all die.
We are?
Yeah. That's. I don't disagree with you.
I've been there,
I
I've
think
been
planning
there.
ahead, we all
Yeah.
plan, right?
Well, we waited until my parents were around 80, and that was too late for them. It was a hard move at that age.
Well, at that age, you run into all sorts of new obstacles because now you're trying to get them to do something they don't really want to do. They may not really understand it. They may not have as much cognitive ability
Right.
to make those decisions as they used to.
Exactly.
And you're more involved. And then, and then I see the family that comes and visits them, their Easter and their Christmas and so forth. And, maybe one time during the summer, and then they realize, oh my gosh, things have changed here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it just-
and they see the environment deteriorate, right? And
It's just harder for them to get along. It seems like if they can do it while they're still fully capable in every way,
well, it's like I told my mom. I said, look,
before they need it.
here's the bottom line. You need to make a decision on how you want things to happen while you're still able to do it.
Mhm.
Because when it comes down to me or it comes down to another family member and we start having to make those decisions, it may not be the same kind of decision that you would have want to have
Right.
had made, right?
Right.
Or, so
Yeah.
we're working, we work on that.
Yeah.
Right? And I try and communicate, and you give them alternatives, you give them choice, right? Okay, so if you're gonna stay in your home, we need to modify your shower and we need to do these things to make it more livable, right? And we need to do, you need to move to a room, a bedroom on the first level and these other things. The alternative is you're going to be over here at this assisted living,
And they would rather stay home, I'm sure.
And that's,
Every-
and you have that conversation in a caring manner,
Right.
right? I mean, sometimes you have to frame it like it's this or that, because, the family, and it's just like with our services, well, I don't really want anybody in my house, but here's the alternative. Your family can't be there. They would love to be there. They've got kids, they're the sandwich generation, they have kids they're taken care of, they're working, they can't be over here. Making sure you're safe during the day, making sure you're eating, making sure you're taking your medications, making sure, everything's well with you. So, we're at an impasse. We have to do something, because the way things are going, you can't drive, you can't get to the store, you're spending money on people that are calling you on the phone, right? And these things happen. So, the family's got to look out for them, and they've so sooner
Sooner
make
rather
those
than later,
decisions.
yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
it's part of your retirement planning, I would think,
Right.
and you're right, putting a burden on your kids or taking that away from them.
Yeah, no one wants to, you don't want to tell your parents what to do, and,
Right. But you got to
You don't
anticipate
want-
they're going to live into their 80s.
oh, yeah.
So that's if they retired at 65, that's a long time.
Mhm.
Okay. The big thing is that, we're talking about costs, and it's the cost of not doing anything versus the cost of doing, making good decisions. What's the cost of you got your home paid for, you're living in your home, all you have to do is pay your utilities versus paying $5,500 a month living in an assisted living. So doing modifications in your home, how expensive is it? So that you can live there in a more comfortable place, and especially if somebody has dementia or something, being in a familiar environment, comfortable environment is really important.
Kelly, we had, Susan had here a person who gave a talk on reverse mortgages,
Mhm.
helping people stay in their home and teaching how that works, and I'd be happy to connect you with her in case, just so you are educated on it in case.
Yeah, I'm pretty aware of those, and that's part of our,
Yeah, okay,
it's a
cool.
resource we have,
Yeah.
but I don't get into people's financial,
Well, in case
in
they
as much,
say I can't
from that
afford to
standpoint,
do that, those modifications,
But-
this would be a way for them to do it.
yeah, this would be a way for them to do it.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's a viable, because then they live in their home, right?
Right.
Until they're
That's-
gone.
Kelly, you talked about Medicare possibly in the next year being more involved in helping people. What was the determining factor? What made them change and shift?
I think originally, in the original writing of, the Accountable Care Act, that was included, some of that, provisions. I think what we're seeing is a shift in the whole medical paradigm as far as where people are getting their care. People are being remanded back to their homes sooner, and the restrictions and the big commentary about what we do and what we prevent is readmission prevention, right? So if they get readmitted to hospitals, they lose. Sometimes they can't treat them, or they can't charge them for the additional treatment. So that's a huge expense. So we see people going back to their homes more. People are choosing not necessarily to go to a skilled nursing facility for their recovery too. So they go home with a one-on-one caregiver. Okay.
So it's more cost effective at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, it's more cost effective, right? And people are, and if given the choice, they would choose that. Okay?